So, Ilse, of course, the first time we met each other was in January, and it was in a very immersive, intense kind of meet and greet experience. And we actually haven't really played much music together other than that summer concert experience. But maybe for those who don't know much about your work, could you maybe just talk to us a little bit about what you really have ended up specializing in and what you love particularly about your kind of current work, particularly your touring work?
Okay, yes. Well, so I did train in the Conservatorium of Music in Sydney, and I never finished my degree because I was had so many things I wanted to do out in the world, and I was gigging so much that I ended up going over to London instead of finishing my final year, which was good and bad, I guess. But I was what happened in London is I wanted to get into theatres and play, like be an actor cellist and somehow make that work with what little I knew really about playing folk music or except for some Irish music I did play. But for anything else, I was just searching for something that was more than classical music because it just didn't. I adore classical music and I was really obsessed with the cello and my lessons. But yeah, I was looking for something another way. And in London, I got involved in a theatre show where we used cello and dance and voice and everything. And I got involved in a duo with a woman who played guitar, and she was like a folk singer. And from when I started playing with her, I really had no idea about how to improvise. I'd improvised, I have experience on the piano from when I was young. I played piano a lot and played a bit of jazz but on the cello it was completely new to me and it just felt like whoa, I was out of my depth and so scared about jumping into that world, but determined.
Yeah, it's
And
fantastic. Yeah.
and there was no one around at the time. There
Mm.
was one jazz cellist, and I went to him and said, "Hey, can you teach me something?" And he was like, "Well, do you know this?" And I was like, "Yeah." "And do you know this?" "Yeah." "Oh, you know everything. You're fine." He didn't
Yeah.
know what to do. He was himself like
Yeah.
beginning on the trackway.
Yeah.
And so it was about forging my own way from, okay, what does this song need? And what can I put the cello on? And where can we improvise? And how can I improvise? And
So a huge amount of experimentation and actually just
yes,
trying things and trusting
yeah,
your own musical intuition, actually. Yeah.
trying things and jamming a lot with people and
Yeah.
doing a lot of sort of funky, jazzy type of
Yeah.
crossover folk
Yeah.
improvising. And so over the years, I honed my craft. And when I moved to Ireland from London, and I started out, I had no gigs. I didn't know what to do. And there was a market, a local farmers market, and I went there and I um, just did it solo cello through 2 years. And it was the whole winter. And I'd go in the freezing cold with little fingerless gloves on. And I developed my solo cello repertoire by doing that because I had to play on my own. And so that's where I started all this really like focus on solo cello works that were either composed by myself or a really like developing other pieces of music from popular music, folk music, jazz, traditional, a lot of traditional Irish music, and making those pieces something that I could put onto the cello and sound full. And
Oh,
so that's
amazing.
where I developed my whole use of, okay, we've got to use chords. I've got to know the chords of this piece to be able to put something underneath. And
Yes.
that at that point, that really did open up a lot for me. I think that's a big thing for classical players is
Yeah.
for any players is you play tunes and you have your books and you've got all the music, but the chords aren't written on top.
No.
And really, like guitarists, everything they play their music and they might be able to read music or have tablature or something, but always there's, even in a lot
Yes,
of guitar classical music, there are,
correct.
they'll put the chords above it, you know. So
Yeah,
guitarists have this natural understanding about chords because it is a chordal, easily a chordal instrument. But we still, as cellists, need to know what the chords are.
absolutely. Yeah, the voicing, the whole kind of where's the
Basically,
lay of the land, what's under me, the foundation.
yes.
Yeah, totally. But
And
actually, in your story, there's a wonderful concept, which is um, also to have that courage to also play. I mean, I love busking and playing outside and playing to people who don't expect it. But in
mm,
that kind of moment, there is this also practicing how do you hold people's attention? So all of that time you're spending, busking or playing outside, actually, what you're crafting is attention. What kind of grabs people by the ears,
mm,
what kind of sits with people, what resonates, what does actually make people stop before they go to the veg store and actually
exactly.
want to listen. And
Yeah.
actually, if you think about it, that is an incredible skill to have, and it can only be honed through practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of
Yeah.
course, when we have often in a student concert situation, when you put on as a teacher, you put on an example of this is our showcase for the work, but you've already primed the audience. They already know why they're there. They're there to support and listen.
Yeah.
But actually, in that situation, it's far more natural and organic. You're actually being really testing your own ability to play and hold sound and hold people's attention. And the one thing I love about the way you play is you have so much joy. And I've always said to my students, don't wait to put that in. Every time you play, your eyes are shining. There's always a story in your face. And I
Mm.
think that's a very important part of sharing music, actually telling a story through your physical gestures too. And I'm sure that would have um, been very informed by both your theatre work, but also very importantly, just playing in a non-traditional experience like that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And
Mm.
I'll tell you a little story. When I toured with Russell Crowe around America. I was in Daniel Spencer,
I
his
mean, how cool is that?
band. Yeah, it was really great tour. And we were there for a month and it was just before 9/11. And we'd have all these concerts, packed audiences, huge. And every time I had my feature, which was a solo within one of Daniel's pieces, I'd just go for it and I'd do this sort of heavy metal and some licks. And I practiced up lots of different licks so I could sound like I was improvising each time, even if I wasn't,
It's like a
because I needed it
library
to
of
be
ideas.
perfect, you know, because they were so strict about everything had to be perfect. The rehearsals were on and on and
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
with her producer. And after the about the second or third concert, the audience, I got the biggest clap of the whole set of Danielle's set. They were just like, wow, and this
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. You
screaming,
see,
so
an ambassador
excited.
for the cello right there.
The one ambassador for the cello,
But
exactly.
you are an ambassador for the cello. I mean, everything you do is about forging a path and finding your own signature sound. If you think about it.
Mm, it is.
And that takes courage, doesn't it, Ilse, to actually walk away from what is known and then
Yeah.
to find your own space. And you've done it beautifully, I think.
And
Um,
what the audience, I'll just finish that bit. What happened afterwards is that they came to me, the producer of the shows, the manager, and he said, "You can't smile anymore on the stage. You need to be still and you need to not smile because
wow. As in, take away the attention from the main act.
yeah,
Wow. Okay.
it was too much. It was like I couldn't cope. Like you just got to sit there. No, it's not cool. It's not cool." And I was like, "But I can't help
That's
smiling.
me.
It's what I do. That's why you've hired me because I'm really good at this, you know."
Yeah,
Look at the
absolutely.
audience, they love
Well,
it.
good on
So
for advocating for that.
I was like,
Yeah.
I just
So
smiling.
yeah, there is this kind of idea, this narrative of what a cellist should be, but actually you have totally defined that space for yourself. Tell us a little bit about this recent tour you've been doing with Ian. Have you finished that yet, or have you got any
Yes,
more concert
finished
dates?
that. We've got more coming up later on, but so I've been playing with Ian Date, and he's a guitarist, and he's a well-known Australian jazz guitarist, and but he's always been sort of pigeonholed as a jazz guitarist. But meanwhile, we've been working on music over the years that's all sorts of things, really. It's like folk, it's a bit classical type of sensibility, it's jazz including. So everything we do, we write these pieces, and we always have um, some good melody with some nice form through it. And then we have a section where we improvise. And so we have a lot of freedom within that. And then we go back to the melody and that's it, sort of thing. And each one of these we've composed them, they all have stories behind them. They all have come from somewhere, sort of important stories to us in our lives, and simple or funny things too. But that the process with playing with him has been really amazing, because that playing with someone who has such a high capacity for understanding, understands harmony so well, and just knows everything. He'll understand whatever note I play. He'll go, "Oh no, you can't play the sharp five there," or, "Oh, you put in this," or not me, but but like just these really great ears. So it's really made me hone my harmonic understanding and the craft in improvising as well. So that's been really exciting. And we screen my film called Living the Tradition. So I made an Irish music film, and I traveled around Ireland and I interviewed people along the way, and I played 10 Irish airs that I arranged around Ireland in the places they originated. And the film, we have a reduced version, we show that, and then we perform afterwards. And it's a really nice setup, because a lot of theatres who don't know me here at all, it's sort of easier to sell, like, get that, get the film, and then it's an interesting thing. So
it's a gorgeous concept. It's and you've actually done a huge string of theatres down in New South Wales, haven't you? Which is always fun, going into more the regional towns too. You always get a great turn up for those kind of things. They're willing to try things, that maybe a city might not necessarily. There's always so much going on, but
exactly,
I found that audiences have really warmed to the work and the feeling of that.
Our last two were Gundawindi, which was just divine. There's a little theatre there. It's called the Little Theatre. And and that's an amazing place too. It's like so out there. Wow. And we stayed on some land that had like a lot of it was like really powerful land. And this river running through it that was a tributary of the Manning, I think it is up there, that it ends up going into the Manning, I think. And like with a tree with a canoe boat, canoe tree.
That powerful stuff, right? You can feel the energy.
So powerful. I did some filming there of the trees, and I've started writing a piece. So so this is where inspiration comes. You go on tour and then you visit some interesting place, and then because you're playing a lot, your hands are all warmed up and your mind is open for creating things. And
that's right.
So I'll haven't started on, well, I've started on it in my mind, but
yes, it's manifesting
ideas. And my phone, you go da, 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 da,
great, you can sing things. Well, this is the other thing. I mean, we have so much technology nowadays, like we can actually access that. And I mean, one amazing thing about your creative practice is that you're really absolutely out there. I mean, like your YouTube channel is excellent. I'd encourage anyone watching this to really start following you. You're pumping out some amazing content. And isn't that exciting as an independent practitioner that you can actually create that wonderful community around you that will follow you and want to see more. It's very cool. One little idea to me, actually, Ilse, would be, because you do write so beautifully, and of course, you know the instrument so well. As you know, the cello choir that's part of the cello retreat it would be so wonderful to have more living composers write music for that retreat and actually get some commission funds to actually kind of happen. Don't you think that'd be fun? I'm
Yeah.
sure you already have a lot of music potentially for cello choir, but I think the challenging thing about that retreat experience is that we've got everything from very established kind of intermediate players all the way through to the professional level. So it's kind of having this kind of
Yeah.
dimensional learning that we need
Yeah.
to
It
kind of
needs
flow in.
specific arranging and yeah.
Yes, I mean, we could talk about. Very
Yeah.
excited. But I'm going to see if there's any questions potentially from the Zoom room because it's so exciting to have you as a guest on the call. So, has anyone got any specific questions about? If we just think about a couple of key things that Ilse was talking about. It was things like understanding chords, harmony. How does that translate, particularly when we play, obviously, just a melody-based instrument generally? There could be ways to practice. You might have some things you want to try and you're a bit scared about trying. So this is your time. Jump in if you have got a question. Leonie, I think.
Hi, Ilse. I was looking through your things after the last meeting, and you've got two publications on chords, and I was just wondering if they actually cover all the chords or just specific chords for the pieces presented. So you've encouraged me. I've gone back to doing theory so that I can perhaps write all the chords out for cello, but I'm thinking you may have already done that for me.
I am actually, Leonie, I'm in the process of putting a chords on cello book, and I've
Wonderful.
written so many pages
Wonderful.
and it starts at the beginning, so showing how to figure out how to play chords on cello and the voicings of the chords and
Wonderful.
Could you give an example? For example, if we think G major chord, I mean, obviously that would be a nice example. We've got an open G, an open D, and we've got a first finger B. We have to kind of think differently in terms of move often the middle third of the chord higher an octave so we can play it across the 5 strings.
So you've got the root of the chord, and then in the cello, the natural voicing is the root, the fifth, and then the third on the top.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, the great thing about the cello is that if you don't use open strings, if you just often when I'm teaching the chords, I just ignore the open strings. So you can get a good standard shape for every chord.
Yeah, that's a good word to use. Shape, just like a guitarist. Shape.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's thinking of the board like a guitar and imagining where the frets are. And I've made a little like a graphic. I've made a chart, a chord graphic. Yeah. So it's specific for the cello. And it goes like all the way up to 4th position with lines. And for instance, 1-1-3 is a major chord. Wherever you go, the bottom note is the root. So if it's on G across 1-1-3 in 4th position, that's G, D, 3 is the third on the top is the B. If it's minor, it's 1-1-2. So we go down to D and it's 1-1-2 is D minor. E, 1-1-2 is E minor. So it's really nice, like simple way. And then I move on to like 6 chords and 7 chords. And same 7 anywhere is 1-4-3.
Yeah.
So it's very simple, but we don't ever do that. And whenever I run workshops and teaching people about chords, they're like, it didn't tell me that it's just 1-1-3 is major and 1-1-2 is minor. Like even just those 2 is powerful to have.
So I've got a quick question. Do they teach that more in the folk space, or is it just, I think, when we're taught very traditional classical music that we just don't get exposed to that kind of material, do you think?
They don't even teach it in the folk space, no.
Oh, really? So you just have to pick it up?
It's just Ilse, I think.
Like there's 2 other cellists I've found who, there's a cellist at the moment who's putting out some chord things. He says, okay, here's 1-5-1, how to do this, and similar to me, same sort of thing. And then there's Brian Wilson has made a chord book, but it's just the chords, it's all the charts of the chords. But
so it's a little bit like the textbook.
It's a textbook, but it doesn't actually help. What you need is chords in context. So the ones I do have on the site are actually the chord shapes over the melody. and then I give the chords, and then you see it on the melody. I do it. I teach, like I have a cello club as well, like this, and every second week I teach a tune by ear, and then I always teach the chords with it, and then I give them the charts, and often I'll give the chords on top. So okay, we use C major, G major, D minor, and A minor, and then I'll have the tune underneath, and it's written, and then you just keep looking up, oh, what's A minor again? Oh yeah. And in this case, A minor, it might be up here, or it might be here, or it might be in another voicing, because you can use first and second inversions. So yeah, but my book isn't out yet, my chord book, and I'm gonna bring it out in volumes, because I can't get this tome out. It's gonna take me too long, so I am gonna bring out that.
Good idea.
Yeah,
break it down, bite at a time.
It's like, I went too big. Like, I'm not, people are asking for it. My cello
club, it's great. I'm sure there's lots of people already here. And at the end of this call, I'll put a little email together, and we'll be able to kind of include all of your wonderful offerings. So the whole point of this is that we connect community and encourage people to try new things. Now, Robin's off her microphone. I don't know if, Robin, do you have a question you'd like to ask?
Probably not a question about technique, but more about Irish music.
Okay, great, go for it.
Because my roots, despite my surname, are somewhat Irish, and my one trip to Ireland, I just felt like it was almost like going home. And I just wondered, any recommendations for doing a wonderful trip to Ireland to seek my music roots back in Ireland? I mean, where are the folk music? When is the time in Ireland to be there?
Oh, I'm going in May. It's a good time. June, July.
Yeah, beautiful summer months.
Yeah.
It's raining all the time the rest of the year. So,
are there any particular folk music festivals or anything in Ireland that you shouldn't miss?
Yeah, like the Flakiol, which is the big, like everyone's playing, and it's just crazy. Look, there's a few places. If you go to Dingle, which is on the west coast in Kerry, that town is just divine. There's amazing walks around, and there's little pubs, and there's music playing a lot. So that's a nice town to go to. The other one is Milltown Mel. They do a festival every year, which is renowned. And that's great, because every single place on the main street is just the trad music going on. Yeah. So those two on the west coast are they're really good. And if you were going to a city like Dublin's, just, I don't know, I'm not so big on Dublin. It's hard to get around, and it's too busy. But Cork, where I'm from, Cork is great. Cork is like, it's got a whole thing happening with trad music, and there are places around there. If you wanted to fly into a city, or probably, but yeah, there's a lot of things around. And I'd say, where are you from? Where is your family from? Do you know?
I had 4 great grandparents who came from Ireland. One from Tipperary, one from Clare, Enniston, and then 2 from the north. So I'm orange and green. On my father's side. So yes, they're from the north. But we have been to Dingle and had a great time in Dingle, and visited a few good pubs over in actually even in Tipperary. So thinking more festivals or music festivals for next time.
Yeah. Well, the Flakiol, which is FLEADHCEOL, like music is Kiol, and Fly is like the festival. Music festival. They happen every year, and I can't remember when this year is. I think it's August.
Okay, good.
And that's all the musicians come from all around Ireland. I mean, I've never been to one. I've only been to like the edges of one where people are, it was still a crazy time. And like when at the end, after it's all happened, there's loads of trad people hanging around, and I'd say go for it.
So there is a scene.
Yes.
I think in Australia it's quite hard to know what the scene is, but I'm just thinking some of the best tune and fun high energy classes I've been to would be the Woodford Folk Festival, kind of the tunes tent. And you know, I mean, of course, that's January, summer heat, but you know, there are some amazing trad players here, but most of them have had to kind of go overseas, absorb a huge amount of creative work, and then come back and then try and create a scene here. But yeah, there are some good players here. And I suppose what we've got to think about is a trad class, a tunes class anyway, would not be taught with music. So, you know, we've been kind of fast tracking you guys because you guys love having sheets. But I think I'm going to encourage you to think about this, obviously, this cello club that Ilse runs, because as you can hear, it's just all about building the ear and really learning a tune by ear, which was also fantastic to have that as the retreat. It's an essential part of trusting your musical instinct and also trusting how the instrument feels too, you know, that wonderful connection with an instrument and the bow. Taking away the music and a stand in front of you just opens you up to so much more feedback. And I think also just even reading body language in a large group. What do you think about that, Ilse? I always encourage people to walk away from the music stand if they can.
Yeah, I think I just think you play completely differently if you can learn something by heart. And
Absolutely.
It's very hard to learn a classical piece or a piece you've read on the paper. To learn that by heart is harder than learning just by ear straight away. But you can do it. It's easy enough. You just keep going over and over and over.
Lots of repetition.
And over and over and over and over. 11 times that bar, turn your stand away. Another 11 times, turn your stand away, try it. Okay, I've got that bar.
Yeah.
It's complicated. And
but actually in that story, there's a little idea which I've discovered over my years of battling with memory, which is actually when you create your own music or when you're improvising within the fabric of others, particularly if you're working with really beautiful, inspired musicians who kind of show you what, you know, in the slipstream of the music, I find that nerves go away completely. And actually, you're not worrying about what to play. You're actually just listening. Does that make sense? And it's kind of what you're saying, you know, when we're trying to recreate something, there's this nerves of, am I going to remember it? Rather than actually, can I feel it? Can I hear it? And actually, I think it's a very different way of playing for me. I don't know if it's the same for you. And just thinking about your summer concert, you know, when you played obviously with Ian, that Friday folk night concert, so many of the audience were like, wow, it's all by memory. I'm like, yes. And it was really good for them to actually remember that that's what it's about, you know. Music is a language.
Funnily enough, I have to put my set list on.
That's exactly right.
I can't remember that.
But it's been a total joy to have you on the call. We're going to close now. Sorry if everyone had some more questions, but what I'll do is I'll share all of your wonderful offerings with people, particularly because it's online. It means you can learn from anywhere. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.